What's up, everybody? Welcome another edition of Drive for Show, DFS for Dough here on Rotogrinders. Super happy to have you with us as always. And we might have some new faces watching this week. We have made this show a free show for all Rotogrinders members. So happy to have you all with us. I know we got the YouTube chat going now, so it's been a while since we've seen a lot of you. Been, over a year since we had Dan Kramer take all our money in the live draft app when we had those going on. But yeah, we'll make this an interactive show. We're going to play a fun game here during the show. We'll break that out in a little bit. So, but before we do that, we'll go ahead and introduce all of us. I am Justin Van Zuiden, aka STL Cardinals 84. I will be hosting the show as we break down the Honda Classic here this week and take a quick look back to last week's Players Championship. Joined by two familiar co-hosts. We've got Mr. Derek Farnsworth, aka Notorious, on one side. Noto, how you doing?
Doing really good. Ended up being a profitable week, although it was a little disappointing. I feel like I got so much right. I mean, JT with the win, Brian Harmon, my main man up there with the T3. I also had Sam Burns up there. So I felt like it should have been a lot better. I think I had 11th place lineup in the Drive the Green, the $5. So didn't quite get there on Sunday. My main lineup just absolutely landmines everywhere. No chance with that one. I had Cantlay and Webb, a couple other guys that missed the cut. So luckily, it was a good betting week. Other than that, awesome tournament. There was a stretch there where we had Brendan Todd shank it on 17, and then Bryson, top his drive, and then Lee Westwood hit like an 80-yard slice. For those 15 minutes, I felt like I could be out there with those guys.
Yeah, that was pretty wild. That was a pretty wild stretch of golf there on Sunday, and it was a wild tournament. If profit means getting more than $0 back from your entries, that's where I landed last week. Whatever I got back was a bonus. Almost had as many miscuts as made cuts in my player pool, so it wasn't a great week for yours truly. But hey, we've all got those from time to time. So a lot of people I know on the DFS streets had the JT bets going, and some even bought in live when his number really dropped. So kudos to anybody who got in on that. And Noto, I know you called that last week as well. So we'll bring in the other co-host as well, Mr. Toe Tag and Tambo, Tyler Tamboline. How you doing, Tambo?
I'm doing well. Another one. Anybody and everybody, I think, like you said, had that. And then some re-upped on the 40-1 on Friday with JT, as you mentioned. So it was a strong week. It could have been a lot better. The mega killed me. Noto, you definitely did come 11th in the $5 Drive the Green. TJ and myself reviewed that on the Monday Results DB show. And I wish I had that lineup in the 71-25 mega. It would have shipped it by 30 points and we'd be millionaires and going to the TOC. So I wish that happened. It did not. Unfortunately, certain guys like Webb, Finau, Hatton, there was a lot of burns there last week that crushed us all. So overall, good week, though. One thing I will say is Bryson, we just talked on this show, this very show last week, about how much we become more of a fan of him. I didn't realize until this past week, though. I think I was only a fan when he wasn't about to crush my outright bets. Versus this week, I got the JT ticket, and he's just even that double bogey was world class. And you've got that happening, and I'm like, man, this guy is just too good, and he doesn't go away. So I was, quite disturbed at that point. I was happy JT finally got it going, on the 9th hole, and then had a little run there with the eagle and whatnot and got it done. So kudos to him. And it was overall a pretty decent week, but could have been a lot better. That's for sure.
We'll try to make this week the week where it is a lot better for all of us with the Honda Classic. But it was definitely a fun Players Championship and one of the hardest tournaments, I think, to peg for DFS. I mean, it's so hard to get a 6-6 lineup because there are just so many big numbers. And it seemed like all the chalk just right away Thursday morning. You had Rory, you had Schauffele, you had Cantlay, you had Finau, and others, just highly owned top end golfers that just went out and did absolutely nothing for that Thursday morning wave. And even, guys who you might think are safe, there's always a double or triple bogey around the next corner. So it just makes for a really difficult week as far as trying to get all your golfers through the cut. And even if they do, you got to avoid the big numbers on the weekend as well. So obviously Thomas ended up taking it down and had a really good weekend after a mediocre start. But Noto, other takeaways from the players for you?
Yeah, you got to feel for Lee Westwood a little bit. I mean, back-to-back weeks, solo seconds. He was right there, and it was one of those rounds where he had Band-Aids and duct tape, just trying to hold it together. He was hitting it all over the place, and I look up and he's 1 over par. I was like, man, it feels like he's 6 or 7 over right now and completely out of it. And then he kind of made a run, and if he didn't 3-putt 17, he could have been right there. But I was glad to see him make that final putt on 18, get solo second, get that extra 500K or whatever it was. It's always cool seeing him out there with his wife or his girlfriend, whatever she is.
I believe.
He does all the yardages himself, and it's just kind of cool. And it sounds like he's going to have his son on the bag for the Masters, which will be cool here in a bit. So good to see him playing well. I probably won't be playing him this week, but we can talk about that here in a minute.
All right, the tease for what lies ahead for sure. Tambo, other takeaways from last week for you?
I don't know. It's hard to feel bad for Lee Westwood. I love the guy. I like you said, Noto, it was kind of cool to see him pick up that extra 500K. He got basically API winning money for coming in second at the Players. So it's almost like he, had won the previous week, 2.7 mil across 2 weeks for himself. JT got 2.7 for first, of course, but Lee Westwood picked up some good coin. He had a little lads and dads event. He was speaking of the Masters. He was going out with his son to Augusta for Monday and Tuesday. So, that will definitely come into the thoughts for the ultimate tease that we just discussed for what we're going to do this week. But other than that, Corey Connors, great call, Noto. That was right up there. You had him, you had Harmon, you had JT. You were just all over it last week. So hopefully we can repeat that again and get back after it here. Like you said, it was a good week. It was a fun week. And now I kind of like it. This was a tournament I was at live last year. The Honda has always been an incredible tournament. Keith Mitchell knocking that 18-footer down in front of Ricky Fowler and Brooks Koepka to get his first win. JT getting it over Luke List in a playoff. Sungjae watched it live last year with Mackenzie Hughes having a shot and Fleetwood going in the water on the last hole down the stretch. I mean, this is always a great tournament, and I'm excited for this week. It sounds like we're going to have some weather involved possibly as well.
Yeah, as usually the case with this tournament, it's a difficult tournament. I did some looking last week or last night with the Honda. You look at the last 14 years, I believe it's 14 years. Yeah. Only 5 players have made it to double digits under par in 14 years. And 3 of those were in the same year where you had 2 guys at -10 and 1 at -12. So by no means a birdie fest with the Honda this week, particularly if the wind kicks up as it does sometimes in Florida. But that was the other thing about last week. When you looked at the way those scores started on Thursday morning, it was like there was no wind and everybody was still tanking. So just a unique course at TPC Sawgrass. Did you guys see the shot that Brendan Todd hit on 17 on Sunday? It went along with all those that Noto mentioned with Westwood or Bryson Shank off the tee, and just bizarre some of the shots you'll see on that course. But hey, Noto, I bet that shot made you feel better about your attempts there at 17 a few years back.
Yeah, I hit the little wood right in front on my first one, and I got a 7 on that hole, so I beat Kevin Na and Benny on. So yeah, that made me feel pretty good, and it was a good week for all of our subscribers. We got a bunch of messages about some big hits, so hopefully they listen to our good advice and not our bad ones.
Yes.
For sure. Well, let's go ahead and dig into the Honda Classic this week, and I'll let Noto go through the course here in a second. But Tambo, you mentioned possible weather. What have you seen so far as possible impacts this week?
Yeah, certainly going to take another look at it. I believe it's you and I tomorrow night. So we're talking a little bit on this show now that it's free, a little bit about some of the premium stuff. Obviously, we've got the Wednesday Lineup HQ show. I think it's you and I tomorrow, Cards, but we'll look at the weather more in depth. But what I'd seen was, Thursday looked like some wind, 20 miles per hour plus, with gusts. Obviously, this is a wide open course. The way the setup is, you got the bear trap there where the wind can really pick up just across. It's completely wide open. And then the other thing I saw was for Sunday, looks like potential for 30 plus. So talk about a way to end a tournament where, like you said, guys already are, -6, -5. That's the type of score we've got winning this thing. And now you're going to bring in potential 30 plus mile an hour winds. That can make for a really great finish. A lot of carnage. If you like those types of tournaments, and we normally talk about it on here that we do, I'm all for it. I can't wait. So it just makes it even more exciting for the upcoming week.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a challenging course, as I mentioned a little bit ago. So you throw some wind and some elements in there. That's not going to make it any easier for these guys. So my bold call, again, if you're a premium subscriber, check out our expert survey. My bold call this week that winning GPP lineup in a lower entry tournament has 5 of 6 this week. I think it's possible. So we'll see if it gets there. But Noto, why don't you go ahead and talk about the course a little bit and what makes it so challenging for these guys?
Yeah, PGA National, Jack Nicklaus design, very difficult. Each of the last 3 years, it's been in the top 5 in terms of difficulty. It's typically a lesson driver course. You hear a lot of golfers say they hit at max 5 drivers per round here. And even with them, kind of clubbing down off the tee, the fairways are hard to hit, the greens are hard to hit. Scrambling's tough around here. So there's really nothing easy. I think water's in play on 15 of the holes. And there's only 2 par 5s. So even for a shorter course, you're not going to see a lot of good scores. We typically see the winning score in the single digits. And I expect that to be the case again this week with the wind that Tambo mentioned there. As far as the type of golfer I'm looking for, kind of similar to what we have been in Florida. Second shot course for me. You want to be a ball striker, but you don't have to be, a bomber type of ball striker. So as long as you're in the fairway, good with your irons, and a good short game, that's kind of what I'm looking for. And then with the weather, I'm looking for the grinder types too. Your Ian Poulters, guys that you feel like are going to just give it their all every single hole and not, just blow up and, let 1 or 2 bad, scores kind of ruin their day, because there's going to be a lot of those out here. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
Par is good. So,
Par is good.
And Noto doesn't have Brian Harmon this week, so I'm not sure what he's going to do.
He would win.
We got to find the Jim Furyk as the replacement for Harmon this week. But Tambo, what you think about the type of golfers and guys you're looking at this week?
I was just laughing because Furyk, but he actually will come up and be a topic this week, so we'll save that for later. But yeah, I'm with Noto on quite a few things there. I think one of the things that popped to me was it does come up in quite a few of the quotes. You see, you can always go back, and again, people watch this for the first time. Maybe, I spend a lot of time looking at these quotes and reading them that, speaks to the course, different times of year, different weather elements, things that they encountered. And I think for me, the one that came up often was the fairways, how important it is to position yourself to be able to even have that second shot in. And then to Noto's point, I think, fast, firm is what we're expecting, a little bit of wind, things like that. There's going to be a lot of missed greens here. So if you're not good around the greens, or you don't have the eligibility to scramble quite well, then it's going to make it really difficult on you. And then back to the grinders standpoint is when you're building your lineups in general, for me especially, I'm looking at it as if, you're building for 6 out of 6s. That's what you're trying to do. So I am going to take into consideration what could be encountered on the weekend. And if it's going to be windy and we're going to have these situations, I am going to want some of these Furyk, Zach Johnsons, Poulters, some of these names we'll get to as we go down the list, and just take my chances and hope they can squeeze out a cut and then have themselves a decent weekend. We saw last week, I won't say it'll be identical by any means, but Justin Thomas wasn't even in the mix. That's why there was a 40-1 on Friday night. And then he goes and posts a 64 on a day like Saturday where there wasn't really much wind, was able to get out there early, do his thing, and then grind it out on Sunday and continue with just a ball striking clinic. Not saying everyone's going to be a JT here, but just to give you an example, basically making the cut at tournaments like this is all you need to do, and you can sort of be in the mix. So, that for me is going to be a big factor when I'm building my lineups this week.
Yeah, for sure. Always impressive when guys barely make it through the cut line and then end up winning a tournament. You don't see it too often, but this could be one of those weeks. You're not going to see a lot of disparity in scores amongst the players who make the cut. You get through the weekend at, maybe 2 over, and the leader is 4 or 5 under. You're in the mix. So will be fascinating to watch it unfold. Let's go ahead and start digging into the golfers this week, and I want to start by talking about, maybe the 3 or 4 golfers at the top. It's a pretty weak field this week. Sung J M, the defending champ. Daniel Berger's gotten some attention. You got Neiman in there. But I think Berger deserves a mention first, and then we'll talk about these other guys. And the reason is because Berger's been playing really well. He always plays good golf in Florida, but rumors have started to creep up. He mentioned that he was dealing with a rib injury last week. I believe he had an MRI yesterday. And we've already seen a lot of golfers withdraw from this event. So there are some concerns. So how are you guys handling Daniel Berger's injury risk and, withdrawal risk this week, and weighing that against the fact that he clearly is one of the best golfers overall in this field? So Tambo, your thoughts on Berger, and then we'll talk about the other guys at the top.
Yeah, I'm hoping if he withdraws, he doesn't pull a Daniel Berger and wait till the tournament starts. I'm hoping we do get the early news. I mean, he's done this in the past, but I don't think it's intentional or he's just trying to be malicious with it. Obviously, probably could care less about our fantasy lineups, but, we hope that if he does, withdraw, that he does it in advance. So other than that, though, man, it's back to what I've always said about this injury report thing. It's in something like golf, it's just going to give it a sense of people are going to be off of him. The more this, rumors, if you will, linger on, they're not really rumors. He's talking about it. It's been posted by reputable websites and feeds out there. So I think, if he plays, I'm going to play him because he's been grinding it out last week and got through. Think about Paul Casey last week. He was shaking his wrist on Thursday with a wrist wrap, and 90% of Twitter said he's out. It's happening. He's done. Where did he finish? T5 in the end. So sometimes they can just grind it out. I'm not going to go heavy with them. I'm not going to get stupid with it. I'm just saying it's just if you're going to get the guy that probably would have been the favorite and possibly the highest owned in the entire field at 5 to 10% ownership because of rumors and because of, not just rumors, like I said, but just news that's out there, I am going to take shares of him and play him in my MME because he's just too good. And if he does gut it out and play through, the one thing that does worry me quite a bit, and talked about this yesterday on the Fantasy Golf Degenerates podcast, was that it's almost like a look ahead spot in the NFL, right? Where sometimes people, bet a ticket. They're like, how did that lose? This is this team versus that team, but not knowing about what they had in front of them. And we do have the WGC match play. We got some big events that are upcoming. Obviously, this is the Masters that he can get into. So, he couldn't get into the one that everyone hated, the fact that he didn't get into the November Masters, but it's just the way the rules go. Well, I think he's going to be looking ahead a little bit. So that factor does worry me. I hope he's got a quote or something that comes out. And if he can't play, just withdraw. Take it out for us and let us play some of these other guys. That's what I'm hoping for.
All right, Noto, agree or disagree on how to handle Berger this week?
Yeah, I think Tambo mentioned it perfectly in that I'm not going to use him in my main lineup, but I do think he's a great MME play. Look, he played last week and he's going to play next week at the WGC. So I don't think he would be teeing it up if he didn't feel decent about the rib injury. It's a concern for sure, but I think the fact that his ownership is going to go down because of it, that more than makes up for it. So MME play for me, but not going to make the final cut in my main lineup.
Yeah, I don't think it would be smart to obviously play him in a cash game setting or anything like that, given the uncertainty. Just pick your other favorite guy at the top and maybe stick to Berger in tournaments. So, all right, let's talk about the others. I mentioned a handful of them. We've got, a weaker field this week, so that's going to add some appeal to Sungjae Im, defending champ at 11K on DraftKings. You've got Neiman. You've got Scott. You've got the last couple weeks runner-up Lee Westwood there above 10K. And Noto, you mentioned maybe no Westwood this week. Is it a price thing or, he's playing over his head thing, or what's your logic there? And who else do you like near the top?
Yeah, for Westwood, it's a combination of price and probably fatigue. I mean, back-to-back solo seconds got to be a little bit taxing mentally. Then he went to Augusta for Monday and Tuesday. Now he's flying back to Florida for this event. So for me, that's not great. And then this is the literal top. We are buying the top on Westwood. He will never be this expensive again in a PGA Tour event. If he is, I'll send out some top shots or something to our viewers. But I just don't think he's ever going to be 10-6 again. So you're buying the top. Doesn't mean it can't pay off. He's been, playing some great golf. And he was even in good form, over in Europe before he came over. But I just don't think he's as good as some of those priced around him. I'm also worried about Adam Scott. I mean, he's lost strokes tee to green in 3 straight tournaments. That's his worst stretch in 2015. I know he's played great here throughout his career, but he was great at, TPC Sawgrass, and he was T48 last week. So that's a little bit concerning. Neiman hasn't been great on Bermuda throughout his career. So for me, all signs kind of point to Sungjae. Obviously the winner here last year. Always play him on shorter Bermuda courses. His irons haven't been good recently, but he's still, popping out top 25 finishes. So for me, I see that as a way to improve moving forward. He's one of the best drivers in the field, really good short game, and the irons can turn around. So Sungjae is my favorite above 10K.
All right. Tambo, your thoughts on the other golfers above 10K? Any hot takes there?
Not really. I think I like what Noto said there with Sungjae. It's, it's fine, especially, but the one thing I think here for sure, and this is just me right now from what I've seen, just spending the first couple of days on it, is that if Berger goes out, so it's sort of that if then scenario, I think everyone automatically goes to him. It's so easy to find $200 on this slate. He'd be the next guy. He's already the favorite. A lot of people got these, defending champion tickets out there where they were able to get Sungjae at 33-1 that they're all banking on those. So it's almost like a round 2 of JT where there's community bets out there. And I think for me, the guy I actually like is Neiman dropping down. If you look back, you can go on, the long-term tools and look at this over the last 3 months. Neiman's actually number 1 in the field, tee to green over 20 rounds, 5 events. He's beating only Daniel Berger in tee to green, who we just talked about and and he's got him beat in approach, and he's really beating him around the green. So again, it always comes down to the putter with a guy like Neiman. But again, what is he, 22 years old? I think he's the guy that almost is, as we always talk about, sort of the forgotten man when you've got Hovland, Wolf, Morikawa, some of these other guys. Neiman's right there in the mix with them. And just seeing all that, he also had a quiet 29th place last week that just nobody was talking about, just sort of did his thing. It can be a bit of sticker shock because he was 7,700 last week and now takes quite a jump, but don't forget what that field was compared to this one. It's a big talent difference as well. So happy to go up to him. Last thing I'll say, Cards, and flip it back to you, is just, I didn't mention this before when you asked what I was looking for, but one thing I'm not looking for is guys that are using this place to sort of quote unquote get right. So a guy like Adam Scott, it's not that he's been horrible, but at this price, at this tournament, I know he's got the history here and won and whatnot, but I just don't feel like it's the spot to come in and find your game and go out and pull something off like this. So Neiman, Im, and then Berger, if he plays, are the 3 that I'm in on up here at the top.
Yeah, I like Neiman. I just think that, the way he's playing now overall and his ability to go out and make birdies. And I am waiting par 4 scoring a little bit more this week. You've got 2 extra par 4s. I just think he fits the course nicely. He's 7th in par 4 scoring this year. A guy we can get to in just a minute. Russell Henley is actually 1st, which surprised me, given the fact that Henley has been, by his standards, a little underwhelming of late. But I know Noto has got Henley tagged up in our premium content here as well this week. And he's your first golfer there in the 9K range, where we've got Henley, we've got Gooch, Lowry, Chris Kirk. I mean, these are guys that you're used to being in the, in the mid 7Ks maybe at best. So just goes to show you how much the field drops off. And this tournament used to be held before the Players and before the Arnold Palmer. So the shift in schedule to the current date has certainly hurt the field strength here. And that's why it's so weak. But I like Neiman with Tambo there above 10K. So Noto, go ahead and head to the 8K or the 9Ks, and you can talk about Henley.
Yeah, I like Henley. His form recently hasn't been great, but regardless of what time frame you're looking at, he's going to be number 1 in this field in strokes gained approach. Also number 1 in this field in bogey avoidance. He's had progressively better finishes here in 5 straight years, including an 8th last year. And he's one of those guys that he's going to play well at the same courses every year. So I really like the spot for Henley. And I've been using course comps a little bit more in my model. I talk about it in my video, which all of you premium subscribers can check out each week. And in the 7 courses that I'm looking at this week, TPC Summerlin, Pebble, Waialae, TPC Sawgrass, Colonial, Innisbrook, and Harbortown. He's number 2 in the course comp, index that I come up with each week. So I like that quite a bit. I was going to be off of Gooch because I thought he would be more popular, but if he's only going to be 15%, I might have to change my tune on that one a little bit. Coming in great form. He's a guy that when he makes a cut, he tends to move up the leaderboard on the weekend, similar to what we saw last week at TPC Sawgrass. Lowry, he's fine. He plays well in the wind. I think that's a big boost for him, but he's very hit or miss. So if he's going to be 20%, he's a guy that I don't mind being underweight on. Then I got to go back to my guy, Cameron Tringale. Just continues to play well each and every week. Missed a cut last week, but he gained strokes ball striking. And he's been in awesome form for a few months now. So love Tringale. And I think I'll be underweight on Kirk just because, I don't know, it feels like he's too expensive. He was 7,100 last week. He was in the 6Ks a couple weeks before that. So I got to fade somebody here, and it's going to be Kirk for me.
All right, we're going to go ahead and try to run a little giveaway game here. So if you are watching us live on Tuesday evening in our chat bar, feel free to drop an answer to our questions here. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick a sort of random lower owned golfer this week that we like as a value play. So it'd be a golfer we haven't discussed yet, generally a value option. Somebody who's on the DFS radar for this week, but is certainly not going to have a lot of ownership. So that's the hint that we were going to give, kind of a random name drop here. And the person, if a person gets it right, we'll let the chat know that, eventually that it has been guessed. And then we will reveal that winner towards the end of the show, and we'll give you a free weekly premium subscription here at Rotogrinders. So if you're already a premium subscriber, don't spoil the fun for those who might not be and who might want to guess. So guess one of our lower owned value golfers this week. Our producer Devin has a little photo ready showing the correct golfer. So we can't play any games here. The golfer has already been chosen by us before the show. So again, value on the DFS radar, but lower owned this week. We'll limit everybody to just a couple guesses. We don't want anybody spamming the chat, but take a couple of your best guesses at this unnamed golfer that we will reveal later in the show. So drop your guesses in the chat if you are watching us live. But we'll go through a few more golfers here. And Tambo, go ahead and talk about some of your favorites in this 9K range.
Yeah, the two I liked, it's a smaller range, so no to obviously hit on them. I guess the biggest thing for me was coming around on Gooch a little bit more, just looking at it today. Par 4 scoring that you just mentioned, cards, some of the stats lined up, and then just thinking he'd be a little bit more popular than Lowry. But I bet Lowry, but I'm almost happy to leave it at that, because it's like either he does or he doesn't. I know there's a lot of narrative going in with Shane Lowry here, lives down the street, the game that he showed, the Open, he won the Open. He's the claret jug holder. So, I mean, he's got that going for him. If you got the windiness and things like that pop up, he's got great hands around the green. Good result there last week, 21st here last year. There's a lot of great things to say about him, but the ownership is really creeping up already, and it's only Tuesday. If Gooch is going to be lower owned. And then I like Henley and Tringali. Tringali, again, talk about a spot to get right. I just mentioned, so he misses the cut last week. But if you look before that, and he barely missed it, but it was 31st, 26th, 7th, 17th, 18th. The guy's just been playing some incredible golf. You flip over to the stats, and he's got everything in his favor over the last 3 months. For tee to green, he's in the top 10 in this field. For approach, he's in like the top 10, top 5, top 10, like he's right there. Around the green would worry me a little bit, but I don't know. He hits a lot of greens as it is. So we'll have to see how that goes. But I think just at that price, and if he's going to be much less popular than some of the other guys around him, it's looking like 14% right now. I'll play him over Kirk. That's what I do know. So Henley, Gooch, and Tringali are the three guys for me in there.
All right. Yeah, I like Henley as well. So we'll make it a clean sweep there. And it gets tough to pull the trigger on some of these golfers because they're more expensive than we're used to paying. But that's going to be the case for almost everybody in this field. It's just the nature of a weak field event. Everybody's dealing with the same salary cap. So it's all relative, as they like to say. But we've got Ricky Fowler at 8,900. So he always seems to come up. Either he's got good course history, or heck, it's a weak field. So surely this has to be the week for Sir Fowler. I don't know. I let you guys talk me into it 1 week, and that was about enough for me. So I think I've got to pass on Fowler here going forward. But you got Doug Gim and Brendan Steele in there. Gim has been in the mix the last couple of weeks, and he's an Illinois guy, so always a fan of Doug Gim. And his Sunday collapses have made his results look a lot worse than he's played. And it's part of the growing pains for a young golfer making his way onto the PGA Tour. And I thought it was really nice of Justin Thomas to say, hey, condolences on your round, or here's what, give him some tips there coming off the 18th green after Justin Thomas won the tournament and could have very easily just, brushed off Doug Gim. I thought that was pretty classy of JT to do that last week as they were walking off the 18th hole. So I'm a Gim fan. He's been playing better golf than the Sunday rounds would indicate. I think you can attribute some of that to nerves. I think eventually he'll be better for it. So Steele, I think, is going to be the popular pick in this range, but I don't mind going back to Gim, and I'm off of Fowler for now. So that's my thoughts on the high end of the 8K range. Tambo, I'll let you have first dibs at this one. Who are you looking at in here?
I was going to bring up Fowler because you mentioned earlier, not too many golfers have gone double digits under par here, and he is one of them. But like I said, I don't think it's a spot to get right. He certainly has a lot to get right with his game. So if you wanted to make an exception and almost call him like a Russell Henley 2.0, where you're saying, look, he has been good. This is a place he's been good. Obviously winning here, some great results, and you want to play course history factor. And then the motivation side of things, obviously really just getting destroyed in the world golf rankings right now, missing out on some big opportunities ahead, watching his guy, Justin Thomas, just go take down the Players, a tournament that he had won in the past. So, there's some ties there, but I don't know. I'm with you on Gim. I like him. I always like Cam Davis. Again, I think this price is good. I think it's fair. There may be some sticker shock to it and, disappointed the last couple of times out. But as far as if you look back again over the last 3 months, 6 months, whatever, it's not really needing to get right after one or two events. It's really, he's been playing some great golf. The other thing I always talk about with Cam Davis is when he makes the cut, that upside is there, whether it's from position placement points and doing well in the tournament, which I think, by the way, if we look, I believe he made top 10 here last year. Yeah, 8th place here. Last week, he still, missed the cut a couple weeks, 2 weeks in a row, but 43rd, 14th, 32nd, 3rd, and 31st before that. So I'm perfectly comfortable with him. He also really does outscore his finishing position quite often. And here we're just talking, you're already hot taking 5 out of 6, taking down a tournament. I'm not even against that. I almost had some last week that were like that in some of the, the $100 stinger or things like that, where it actually could have taken it down with just like a Hatton in your lineup. So I could see that happening again this week. And then one guy, I like Keegan Bradley, but he's got ownership with them. But the guy that is going overlooked here, as far as our ownership projections are concerned right now, is Dylan Fratelli. And his tee to green game was right up there with Berger last week and really just didn't have the putter. He's got a solid around the green game. I know he can play well in the wind. South African, he's got some of these, types of courses that he plays on already and a lot in the wind and weather. So I think he'd be a guy to grind it out, and coming off a pretty nice week for himself. 2 times out here, he's made the cut 2 out of 3, 58th and 11th. So I think he'd be an interesting play at 6% at just 8,200. And then I'll leave Poulter. Noto did drop his name. I do like Poulter quite a bit as well at 8,100.
All right, so some interesting golfers in this 8K range that maybe even better than the 9Ks. I've actually seen some Matt Wallace buzz on the Twitter machine as well. So nothing's crazy in this field. So Noto, your thoughts on the 8Ks here?
Yeah, I bet Matt Wallace for a top 10. He's kind of a European grinder type, really good short game. He's been good in Florida, T18 at the API. Had a couple other high finishes in Florida a couple years ago. So don't mind him as a lower owned option. Going back up to the top of the range, this is where Brendan Steele was like 7 or 8 over par. Everyone was tilting him. He was one of the highest owned golfers of the week. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago. Came back, made the most epic run ever to make the cut, finished in the top 15. I'll never forget that moment. If they ever have a golf Top Shot, I want that round encapsulated. Anyway, so that was pretty good. He's been in good form. Tee to green, I know he's going to be highly owned, but I will play him over Keegan Bradley. Keegan Bradley has gained 5.3 and 4.2 strokes with the short game the last 2 weeks. That will never happen again in the history of his career. Okay, maybe it will, but
what happens again? Keegan Bradley
soon.
Does that, or Lee Westwood is 10.6K.
Lee Westwood will be 14K before Keegan will gain that many strokes short game in two tournaments in a row. Just kidding, but I mean, I don't know. The ball striking hasn't been as good. I just see him as a fade given the ownership. So I'll be off of him. I like the Cam Davis call. Ricky Fowler, I just looked up his world ranking, dropped all the way down to 81. So even if he wins this week, I don't know if he's into the match play. How crazy is that?
Yeah, it's bad.
I got the clutch mute in there before the sneeze, so that was a W for today. So that did not blare over everybody's microphone. But in the process of that, I missed a lot of what Noto was saying, so I apologize. But if Fowler wins, I don't
know how the points work, but he's 81st right now.
Well, it's not going to matter. He's not going to. Anything else in the 8Ks? I don't really have a whole lot to add outside of the guys we've already talked about. Yeah, go ahead, Noto.
Yeah, go with Poulter for sure, and then I'll add one more. Noto, go ahead.
All right, so his approach game hasn't been great recently, but he's just a grinder type. He posted a funny video after his first round with Stenson and Rory saying those 4 were combined 29 over par. So he's not taking himself too seriously. He is right on the bubble when it comes to the match play. He's at 65th in the world. He needs to be in the top 66, assuming Tiger's not going to be there, Brooks isn't going to be there. But he loves Florida. And again, the worse the conditions get, the more I like a guy like Poulter.
Yeah.
All right.
I was gonna say I do love Poulter for that. I'm glad you brought up the narrative piece there, because last time I played him with the narrative, it was at the Houston Open, and it was a 6-figure week for me. So I can certainly get on board with a Poulter motivation week, because that was a huge win over Bo Hostler in the playoff, which was quite exciting to watch. But my other guy I was gonna mention was just Wyndham Clark, and give him a little bit of a pass. He's actually got some pretty good course history here. He's only shown up around 10% ownership, 11th and 7th the last 2 times out. He did miss the last 2 cuts, but he was a debutant at both those events, really tough events in the Players and the API. But before that, 8th, 36th, 32nd, 54th. I mean, he's been right in the mix. I certainly think he's a pretty good play here in this field versus what he had to, go up against the last couple of weeks. So if you wanted a sort of another guy there in the 8K range, that'd be the one at the very bottom that I could get behind.
All right. And for those who might have just tuned in, again, if you're watching us live, we are giving away a week of Rotogrinders premium access for anybody who can guess our random value play of the week. And again, somebody who's on the DFS radar, but definitely doesn't have a lot of ownership. The people who have been guessing in the chat have been kind of in the ballpark of the type of player we're talking about. Little hint, he is under 7K on DraftKings, so under 7,000 on DraftKings for your guess. We'll let everybody throw another guess out there, and hopefully we really want to give away a winner and a week of premium content here. Lots of great stuff over on Rotogrinders for you to check out if you are a premium subscriber. So we want to give somebody the chance to try that out for a week. So again, the random value, we'll talk about them later in the show, but I want somebody to guess that correctly. So keep on throwing some guesses in the chat. All right, let's go ahead and move into the 7K range here where the field really starts to thin out. You got Kevin Streelman, looks like he's going to get some ownership. Zach Johnson, par's a good score. It's a nice week to maybe take a shot on Zach Johnson. Matt Jones, I've seen getting some love. So Noto, your thoughts on the 7K range?
Yeah, we got to get a winner this week. So if we don't get one soon, maybe we'll give out an easy hint. I have one, but I think it would.
I don't want to
give it away yet.
I don't want to completely give it away yet. I want somebody to really get it, but we'll get there.
Oh, somebody posted about Rory Saps. It's not him, but did you guys see the video with Speed last week? Oh my gosh, that was gold. You can't find it anymore, but anyway, back to the 7Ks. So Kevin Streelman rates out well for me. Zach Johnson rates out well for me. Matt Jones rates out well for me. I like them all. They're actually all top 13 in my model, which is kind of crazy given, just the type of golfers that they are. They're typically more cut makers than anything else, but I'll give the edge to Jones of the three. And if they're all going to be pretty low pretty low owned, I guess I'll be overweight on them. Somebody in the chat mentioned Brandon Wu. I kind of like that for tournaments. He was in great form on the Corn Ferry Tour. T7 at the Puerto Rico Open. So I'll take a chance on him.
Wasn't there a Wu that was playing in the Outlaw Tour around a year ago when we were doing Outlaw Tour stuff because there was nothing else? No offense to the Outlaw Tour.
Was it him?
I don't know. That's what I was trying to remember. Was it him or was it a different Wu?
I think it was Brandon Wu because he played on the Corn Ferry Tour. Because I remember, right, he was always one of the most expensive guys.
Right, because obviously he was high class for the Outlaw Tour. So I think it was. So, you got to play him now. If you played any Outlaw Tour last, May, June, July, when there was nothing else going on, it's destiny. So
yeah,
I like
MJ,
put him in
MJ Defoe, that Defoe guy was playing in those too. And we've seen him a couple times. So, yeah, I like that call.
I think it was Dylan. But Dylan Wu.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, I played a lot of Outlaw, trust me, but
you just spoiled the fun. I think
we're not spoiling anything. Brandon Wu literally just came like 7th in the Puerto Rico Open a couple of weeks ago. Like, this is a great play at 7,800 that half the world won't know, and you can hop on. So might have spoiled the Outlaw Tour.
It was more fun when he was the Outlaw Tour guy.
Yeah. When he was our hero. Yeah. Go ahead, Noto.
No, I'm done with that range. But I was going to say, didn't old baseball pitcher win one of those events?
Yes, that happened as well. Now I won't remember his name either, but yeah, there was a situation there. Outlaw Tour, a lot of fun. I wish we could get some of that back. I know we got some Corn Ferry Tour now on DraftKings, but yeah. Did you talk about Poston? No, that was your tag here, and I want I'll go if you want. He's a great play this week, I think.
Yeah, sorry, I skipped over. My mind's going in too many places right now. Yeah, I love Poston this week. Anytime you get him on shorter Bermuda courses, I'm on board. I'm not worried about the ball striking because he has one of the best short games around. 3 for 3 here, no worse than T36. And I bet him on outright to win too. I think he's 70-1 on the DK Sportsbook. So yeah, if you are eligible for that, I highly recommend it.
I like him quite a bit, actually. And, just another tidbit to add in on here, Cards and I are always notorious, no pun intended, about going on about these good Sunday rounds. And we talked earlier, Cards, about, par being a good score. How about bogey free Sunday at the Players for JT Poston as a way to come into this tournament where, he's got to be, looking for another W. He won at the Wyndham, which is a Bermuda course that we comped last week, where this course also kind of comps. Talk about Ricky Fowler winning the Players, the Honda, JT winning the Players, the Honda. These definitely go together. It's literally the same thing, almost time of year, all of those factors. And Poston watched his buddy Max Homa win the Genesis at Riviera. He's got to be feeling like it's time to go out and get himself another. So at 7,900, he actually feels underpriced to me, as crazy as that may seem. And if he's only going to be 7% owned, I think he's one of the better value plays this week. I'm with Noto. on Streelman. I like some, and Jones even, but I like some other guys here. I like, List, can go back to him. I think just, again, not necessarily getting right from the last couple times out, but how well he's been playing over the last 3 to 6 months. I think he's still been playing some pretty good golf for List. That's the thing. And at that price tag, if he makes the cut, could give you some upside, have some good vibes coming back here. Harold Varner, definitely a grinder. You talk about that par 4 scoring. That's right up his alley. We like this guy at this price in much stronger fields. And now he's at 7,600 in this field. I think that's more than fine. Ryan Moore. What about this though, Noto? Last week, your bold take on the Wednesday premium show was Rory Sabatini greater than Rory McIlroy. It
Easy.
certainly came through.
What brought that up, and how many beers deep were you at that time?
Well, 0 beers deep, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't know why. We were just talking about Rory, all of his struggles, and then we said maybe the better Rory will beat him, and then so that ended up being my hot take at the end of the show. But yeah, I like him. Florida course, anytime it's difficult, and in Florida, I'm on board.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I thought. And he kind of fits the, I think you mentioned Heritage a little bit last week and this week, and kind of why we liked him. He's done well there. So again, a guy that could just grind, make you the cut. I don't think he's going anywhere near beyond, maybe a top 20, if you will, but I just think that's fine. At 7,200, you could take a guy like him and find your way to the top of the leaderboard that way. So I'm okay with him at 7,200.
All right, we do have a winner in our random player challenge, so we'll give that away here in about 5 or 10 minutes. Stick around if you're watching and you've made a guess here recently. We've got a winner, so we will give away a week of Rotogrinders Premium to the successful person who guessed that right here in a few minutes. So kudos to the winner in advance. All right, so let's go through some of these other 7K options. Tambo likes to needle me about Johnny Vegas because I got him right like once upon a time. But I think he's actually viable this week, and he's going to get some ownership at like 10%. So now that he's becoming a little chalkier, I'm not sure how I feel about it. But, McNeely, Neesmith, Richie Warinsky, Van Rooyen, I mean, these guys are capable of popping. They're not the most consistent golfers, but, there's some guys in this range that, I mean, they don't feel any worse than, the $83, $84, $8,500 options. So I'll probably be a little bit overweight on some of these mid 7K golfers in GPPs. Noto, other thoughts on this range for you before we move along to the values?
Yeah, I like Naismith. I like Sabatini. I'll be overweight on Adam Long. His proximity numbers are pretty good. T22 last week, I believe, at the Players. T27 last year here. And then Ryan Moore, I mean, he rates out really well for me, but he's made 2 cuts since like August. He just hasn't been playing a lot of golf. I just don't really know where his game's at. His irons haven't been as good as they typically are. So I don't know if he's going to be the popular guy down here. I don't mind being underweight on him.
All right, Tambo, any other thoughts on this range for you before we move along?
I like Sabatini, Wierenski. I liked Moore. I'm surprised to see the ownership at almost 12%. I mean, he played well last week. I was going to say that was sort of the good thing, but the guy I was on, mentioned him yesterday too, was Matthew Neesmith. I just think too strong with his overall game stats wise, coming in here, that looks pretty good to me. And I bet him as well at 100-1. I thought that was good. 38th here last year. Again, last couple of weeks out are tougher events. It's kind of like that same thing that I talked about with Wyndham Clark earlier. Before the last couple of weeks, 20th, 16th, 7th. And now he comes into a field that's just much, much weaker. So I do like him. Wierenski, who I mentioned, Adam Long, who Noto mentioned, great week last week, just very quiet. And if you go back, even in this year's, just past this year's US Open, he came like top 15. And that's a tough field, very tough track. And now you're going into the same sort of situation, coming off a pretty good week. So I could go back to him. And then if you want to play that same US Open narrative, just a grinder with a name that no one's really going to be on this week, but he's actually coming in off 3 straight made cuts. Got a 4th, 17th, 21st, and 3 of his last 4 years here. And that's Lucas Glover at 7,000. We know what he needs to do, but at 7,000, that's baked into the price. Like, yeah, he has to make some putts. He has to do his thing, but can he grind out a made cut? Yes. Can he do something over Saturday? And maybe then he just spoils us on Sunday and really, ruins our lineup on Sunday. Okay. But I'm going to build for that. And I'm happy to do it at 7,000 with a guy like Lucas Glover this week. So a little bit more risky play, but I think he's fine at 7K straight. Mute.
Yep, muted. We're good now. All right, before we get into the value plays, I've got just a couple promos we were doing over at Rotogrinders. So If you are interested in becoming a Rotogrinders premium subscriber, we are giving you the option to select specific sports for your premium subscription now. So you can, pick and choose whether it's golf. Obviously, if you're watching this, we think you're probably interested in golf, but NBA, MLB season's coming up. Basically, you can pick and choose what you want as part of your premium subscription, a la carte style. And you can use the promo link in the description of the video, and Devin, our producer, will drop it in the chat to get $10 off your first month of single sport premium. Or you could choose the combo package, which basically includes every sport except for NASCAR, which is on its own. So check that out. You can click the link and learn more. And then also we have an affiliate site, Scores and Odds, which Notorious and Tambo and I, we all do some picks. Betting picks. It's a sports betting site, so you can check that out. We've got 5 days for $5, 5 days for $5 promo going on at Scores and Odds. That offer is available through March 22nd, so through next Monday, just in time for March Madness. So again, 5 days for $5. Scores and Odds. We're doing a lot of stuff over there, up and coming. Good stuff to come there. So check out those. And again, we've got our winner of the contest, which we will get to here in just a moment. So we'll talk about some of our other favorite values before we get to the winning selection, but plenty of reasonable punts below 6K. I'm not sure you want to be going to too many players in the punt zone, but maybe take a shot on one to round out your lineup. I've seen some love for Sepp Straka, Denny McCarthy, a few names that have been bandied about a little bit, but Tambo, you got a couple favorites under that 7K mark this week.
I mentioned Furyk earlier, and like I said, it may come across as a joke, but he's popular. So of course I like him, right? 11% at 6,900. Sure. But I don't know. I think it's pretty interesting that, the dynamic of it and how it sets up. I think you will need some of these guys in your lineup. That's again, back to, pumping the show for tomorrow. We appreciate you guys here today with us, but when Cards and I go through it tomorrow, that's exactly what we're looking at. What do these winning builds look like? What do we think everybody's doing in these large field tournaments, and how can we leverage ourselves against that? So it's certainly a show to tune into. He would be a guy that stands out to me as maybe being a plug and play. But one thing I'll say about that, just because he is showing up at 11% right now, is I think a lot of people stop at Furyk and try and fit him in as their last guy in. I'll be looking at situations tomorrow, especially where we can try and use him as the second last guy, get him to grind, make that cut, maybe get you a top 20 and have one more guy in behind him, pop up and be able to make that lineup work and really get some powerhouses at the top end, because we already talked about some of those mid ranges where it's maybe not as strong. Bo Hogue, really interesting guy down here. Some won't know this backstory on him, but it is kind of interesting. His grandfather was like best friends with Jack Nicklaus. So people always lean to that with him at the Memorial. His grandfather actually helped with the Muirfield Village course. And, that ties in. This is a Jack Nicklaus redesign. So, long term. So I think that is kind of interesting. He's been playing some pretty good golf, $6,600. Sepp Straka, Adam Schenk for guys that can just make a cut and grind out the weekend. Keep going down. Old man Stewie Sink. He stands out a little bit to me as just a little bit too cheap at 6,500. And then Tyler McCumber, the namesake. I'll leave it off with that and let you guys take over. But played some really good golf there last week. I think he's a guy that also sets up well here, and at 6,400 seems pretty odd after he was competing in a much stronger field last week, playing quite well, and now gets to come out here and basically the exact same conditions or at least similar, and gets to come out with just a much weaker field. So I like him at 6,400 as well.
I was looking at some of the discussion in the chat. Noto talked about the Outlaw Tour being his most profitable DFS sport ever, and I remember Noto had a couple hot weeks right out of the gate with the Outlaw Tour, and there wasn't a lot of content to be found for that. So all of a sudden, everyone who was reading Noto's stuff over on Rotogrinders everyone started using like the same lineup, and you'd see a 50-50, and everybody's using the same Outlaw Tour lineup that Noto was writing up in most of them in his article, and you could kind of figure it out. Because Noto was doing so well that Noto ended up having to list fewer players in his Outlaw Tour articles to keep everybody from overlapping his lineups. Those were the good old days. But anyway, speaking of good old days, we'll announce the winner of the contest. So my favorite 1.1% owned that we have right now, value play of the week, is Mr. Charles Schwartzel. This could backfire in my face when he finishes, dead last or something. But anytime you get on a course where par is a good score, you have to grind it out. I think Schwartzel becomes interesting. He's got a couple top 20s here the last 2 years. Nobody's talking about him. Nobody's going to own him. 6,800, not an exorbitant price tag. I like it this week as a punt value. You could do worse in that 6K range. So I believe Harry Brandt in the YouTube chat is our winner. So kudos to everybody for playing. And we'll ask that maybe you connect with our producer, Devin, to hook you up with your winning prize there. So congrats on the guess of Schwartzel. We'll see if I'm on Schwartzel Island or if anybody is going to, come along for the ride. But Noto, Schwartzel, or any other values this week for you?
Yeah, I don't mind Schwartzel a little bit. And yeah, all my Outlaw Tour money, they went right back into the pool. I don't think I won 1 week the next 6 months in golf. That was a brutal stretch once we started back up. So all that money's back to the community. I like to give back. Favorite 6K guys, I like Furyk a lot. It's hard not to. Compared to the names around him, showed some life in California. Good course history here. Really like Johnny Huh. Made 7 of 8 cuts. He didn't play once between March and October. He kind of just took all that time off. He's played 8 events since. He's made 7 of 8 cuts. He's got pretty good course history here. He's one of those guys that just doesn't make a lot of mistakes. So I think that makes a lot of sense for a guy below 7K. Denny McCarthy is interesting. Obviously, one of the better putters. I've never seemed to get him right, so I don't know what I'm going to do with him yet. I like the Straka call. Then the only other guy that I have in my player pool right now is Scott Stallings. He's gained on approach in 5 straight tournaments, and looks like he's got some decent course history here too.
There is also a Steven Stallings Jr. that I'm not sure if they're related, that Monday qualified, but alas, if you're looking to play Stallings, make sure you don't select the wrong player because they're both S Stallings. So just mind yourself if you're going to click that button and don't want to get the wrong one in your lineups. Anything else, Tambo, for values for you?
I'm trying to think here if I had any more. I think the only other one that I was looking at here was...
It thins out pretty good this week.
Yeah, the one that I liked down here was 6,200 was Chase Seifert. This is another guy. He's an FSU guy, right? I believe with Brooks and Koepka that, he's played well for us in the past. It's not someone I'm going to be heavy on. Like I said, I'm going to be looking though at stacking some of these values. I think there is, quite a bit of the win equity in this tournament, in my opinion, at least, is at the top. So missed the cut here last year, but last time out got 15th. I think that was I want to say it was at the Workday. Yeah, Workday, he got 15th. So yeah, just a little sneaky play there down at the bottom at 6,200. I'll leave it with that.
Yeah, there's not too much once you get down to the very bottom of the player pool. This field thins out pretty good. And, we almost got a full hour out of a pretty weak Honda Classic field. So it was super exciting to be back doing the free shows for all of you and hanging out on the YouTube chat. And again, we'll do this little 1 week of RG Premium giveaway, but tons of other good premium content over at Rotogrinders. We got our GPP article that I write. We got the Core Plays article that Noto writes. Tambo and I are going to do the lineup HQ breakdown video tomorrow. Tambo also does a final round showdown video. So plenty of good stuff. Encourage you to check us out. Our winner from our contest will get to check out a week on us. And yeah, that's going to do it for this week. So I think, is next week the match play already?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So then match play, DraftKings has they canceled the match play last year. So it's been a couple years since they rolled it out, but I believe DraftKings did offer some contests. It's pretty hard to go through that in this setting from a DFS perspective, but I think they did start offering contests for the match play a couple years back. But there also will be a secondary event at Corrales in Punta Cana in the Dominican next week, which I would imagine will be the primary event for DFS content and contests. So we'll have to
remember the match play, not to cut you off, but that's why people want to get their RG Premium membership, is there's a ton of strategy to it. It's actually one of my favorite tournaments of the year, where you can literally win a tournament on Saturday potentially and have a GPP taken down if nobody else has got the right mixture of the pool in there. So a lot of strategy will be going into next week, and I'm super excited about it. So yeah, definitely a fun one. And then, like you said, the Corrales, I think it is, or it's something like that on the other side. But yeah, it's going to be a good one.
Definitely a good week when you can play you can sweat 2 different golf contests. Derek can donate to 2 charities at once if he wants to. during the week. So we'll have you covered. We'll have to see what the sites offer for contests and prize pools next week, and we'll figure that out as we go. But until then, it's a wrap for this week, everybody. Thanks for watching. For Tambo and Noto and our producer, Devin, I'm Justin. Have a great week. Take care, and we will see you next Tuesday. Bye, everybody.